Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dwarven Tavern Radio. I am your host, Jeff Goins, and with me in the tavern tonight are
Ian Goins.
Laird Goins.
And Joshua.
and we are here to tell you about all kind of good things tonight, which at whatever point in time you happen to be listening to this. And so I think we're going to start off with the news. Josh has some really cool stuff to share with everybody. So, Josh, at the news desk, take it away.
Well, our first story today comes from the end of December about the summer 2014 launch of the new 5.0 books for D&D. Wizard of the Coast announced the highly anticipated new rule system for Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons.
I
like to play Dwarven.
Will release in summer 2014. There has been no definite date yet, but I'm sure it'll sometime this spring we'll hear it.
Okay.
After nearly 2 years, obviously, and 175,000 playtests, which were not in on, which we just didn't know about that.
Actually, I did participate in
You
some of the D&D Next stuff. It actually looked. Some of what I saw actually looked pretty cool. There were some things in it. I can't really remember offhand any specifics, but they are listening to, from what they said on the website, they were trying to listen to what the players actually had to say about the game.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Whether or not that's true, or whether they actually get it, is a matter of.
Did you read any of the new rules or anything?
Yeah, I actually have some of the what was it? The SRD systems reference document for the game.
Are they trying to do kind of what Pathfinder did? You think they're trying to copy a little bit of Pathfinder?
I think maybe they are. I think they adopted some of the rules, not necessarily adopted some of the rules, but kind of mimicked them in a way.
Yeah.
A lot of the rules seemed pretty similar. Of course, there's only so many different ways you can role play. There are only so many different variants of the rules that you can do. But what they did was tried to make it a little less. I think they're trying to make it a little less formulaic, which is the problem that I think most people have with it.
More free form,
Yeah,
free flowing.
yeah. Hopefully so. It will be. If I play it, it will be anyway.
Right.
So whether it's formulated or not. So please continue.
Well, that came from us from wizardsofthecoast.com. Wizards.com would be the actual. All right, and the next story comes from wizards.com as well, and I know I'm kind of excited about it. A lot of older games, RPG games, they're releasing Baldur's Gate 2 on the iStore app, iTunes app, for iPad, iPhones, to be able to play the entire Baldur's Gate 2 game on your mobile device.
That's incredibly cool. I played it when it first came out on my Packard Bell. It was a 386 computer.
I was about to say on your
Jesus.
box of a device.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I played that back when I had a cardboard box. Screen.
Yeah, the screen was a cardboard box, and I drew on it. That's almost the case. It was
But
like 8-bit encryption, or not 8 encryption, but it was like an 8-bit. It was horrible, but the game was fun.
Oh yeah, the games are
I thought
great.
I thought I was rocking. I thought I was playing with power.
The first, Baldur's Gate 1, 2, and the expansions for 2 are probably some of the best old school RPG games there are. Except for, you have Neverwinter, which is a little bit newer, and I can't remember the other one.
It's there though.
It's
We know you.
Icewind Dale. That
Icewind Dale,
That
yeah.
came about the same time.
Yep. Here's a little bit of news that I just found out. I don't know how long it's been out, but they have 4th edition rules for. They have 4th edition rules for all of the rule books for all of the Forgotten Realms and Eberron and Dark Sun. And now Dark Sun Do you guys remember Dark Sun? You guys didn't have anything to do with Dark Sun. The
No.
Dark Sun setting.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was. That was. I think that was second edition D&D.
Really?
Yeah, and it was
No,
called
we
the
started
Dark
playing,
Sun
We
setting.
started playing with 3.0.
Yeah, we began 3.5.
Yeah,
3.0.
3.0, and then it
Did we?
was.
Yeah, that's why I don't remember half of my characters because we switched over when I turned like 10.
There wasn't really much of a difference though.
Yeah, but with the second edition and the Dark Sun, it was a dark sun. It was like a brown dwarf planet.
Hence the name.
Yeah, and everybody made tools out of like bones and stuff, and
That's
it was pretty brutal. It was barbaric. It was a little
Hey,
barbaric. So
those are some of the best games there are.
yeah, there are.
It's like, can I smash this guy's face in? Why, yes.
Why? Yeah.
Why not?
Hell, I be.
It's expected of you. So please continue.
Well, we got one more. This one is for our Pathfinder friends, who we have unfortunately not actually played a whole Pathfinder rules yet, but we will.
Yeah. We've done some. We've accomplished some. I really like the Pathfinder.
Our latest news, our last news for today, comes from us from Pathfinder.com, who's announced a couple new books for the 2014 releases. They're releasing a new miniatures game, new book for miniatures.
That's very cool.
Pathfinder Adventure Paths and the Mummy Mask, which I assume are campaign settings. Both of those will be $22.99 MSRP, which cast its heroes as tomb raiders and explorers who delve into ancient realms in order to find a way to thwart the designs of an ancient pharaoh who has returned to life.
Cool.
And also, Passio plans to release Pathfinder the campaign setting Inner Sea Guides, MSRP for $39.99. Deluxe 300-page hardcover that will examine the gods and goddesses of Galorian's Inner Sea region. New prestige classes, subdomains, spells, traits, feats, magic items. Many do different things. And probably one of the ones I'm most excited for is the new Pathfinder role-playing Bestiary 4. Will feature more than 250 new creatures
Oh, wow.
for use with the game.
That's a lot. That's cool.
Foes like demon lords, clockwork dragons, and Lovecraftian great old ones.
Cthulhu.
Even Cthulhu himself are part of this book. Are designed to challenge the new mythic level characters, which I believe is basically their epic level handbook. Their mythic level and epic level.
Okay.
Though, from what I read about the mythic level, it's got stuff for first level characters all the way to the higher 20th level characters.
Excellent. Excellent. Can't wait. Can't wait to see those.
Sounds interesting.
And
Yeah,
new character races are also
You sound very
for that book.
enthusiastic.
300 pages. That one will be released fall of 2014, I believe.
Fall of 2014. Well, we're looking forward to that date.
I thought you said the fall of 2014, as in when 2014.
When 2014 crumbles.
You heard it here first. Rapture.
You were warned. Okay,
No,
so
actually, we didn't warn them at all. We just it's gonna happen.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
Right,
Give us all your money and
yeah,
That's
take
about
care
it.
of
and period.
That
That's all we need.
you're going to die and we'll take care of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the news, Josh. That was wonderful, and we're looking forward to all that. So, Lyric, what's next on the agenda?
Well, next up, we are going to do a review by A.G. Howell's book, The God of Death, a Jesse Skull novel. It is a pirate book set in a future post-apocalyptic world covered by the ocean. And
Like Kevin Costner's Waterworld.
kind of.
Yeah,
It's
except not
got
as good.
land. Well, we're all since.
I'm sorry, I started this off on the wrong.
Oh,
This is a
Starter.
book
I
that
think you
we're-
started off on an accurate note.
This is a book that we're all going to do a review for.
I don't
just
read, by the way.
We had to read it to him.
So
We had to.
that's coming up, and then later on we will be doing a DT tips and tricks for how to create and the importance of your characters' backstories
Okay.
for both D&D and anything else you play.
Excellent. So we are going to take a short break, and when we come back from our musical interlude, we will talk about the pirate book. So don't go away. We'll be right back. back, and thank you for listening to that musical interlude. Next up is a review of a pirate book. We have a pirate book that Lyric and Josh procured at Gen Con last from an author named A.G. Howell, and the book is titled The God of Death, a Jesse Skull novel. Lyric, take it away. What do you think?
This novel...
It's breaking already.
Okay, the ISBN number, if you want to check out this book for yourself, is 9781 4811 14561. And you can also find it on Facebook. I'm sure if you just search the author's name, or you can find it on facebook.com/ag.howell or at aghowell.wordpress.com. And that's if you want to check out. I'm sure she writes blurbs about it and whatnot. So, this book is about pirates, obviously. And reading the back of the book says, ruthless and cold, Jesse was raised by some of the most feared pirates, including the Blue Court's legendary leader, the sea god Malachi. In the midst of a mission to capture a rogue pirate, Jesse receives word from a prophet that his real conflict may be with fellow pirate lord Devon Blue. When Jesse meets with Devon, he discovers a secret that could not only cause chaos in the pirates' trade harbor, but will change Jesse's solitary life forever. That sounds like an interesting book.
It does. It does.
When I started reading it...
Just a side note. Is there like Frank Orange and Jamie Purple? And like, it's like my name is Goliath Black. That's a cool name. Or
Yes.
like Blackbeard.
I'm Billy Yellow.
My name is Billy Yellow, and that is my friend. Like, what's his name? Frank.
Frank Off-White.
Would he be Asian?
Frank Semi
Eggshell.
Semi-pale. Beige. Jimmy Beige.
Well, anyway, when I started reading the book on the way home, actually, I thought it was going to be an adventure tale of a pirate in a medieval time frame, or maybe something along the lines of a different universe where it's all pirates, and something D&D-esque, but not really. It's hard to explain.
Right.
We were
So
expecting a book about pirates and the pirate books.
From
And
like
pirates.
the actual age of pirates.
and piratey, pirate.
Pirates.
Pirates. What?
So when I actually started reading it, it wasn't quite exactly what I was expecting. As a matter of fact, it was nothing of what I was expecting. And it's... I can't read it when you guys are passing it around.
we're passing around saying, look at this.
This in particular is kind of interesting because it's really bad. No, but when I started reading it on the way home, it wasn't what I was expecting. And I have to say, and my honest opinion, not to be too critical, but it is probably one of the worst books I've ever read.
Which it really
Well-
hurts to say, because the author is such a nice, kind woman who really took a lot of
I
time to
can
talk
tell
to.
that a lot of effort was put into this book,
Yeah.
and I can tell that there is a lot of talent just waiting to be sculpted into something magnificent. This is a prototype sculpture, and
Wow.
in saying so, I'm honestly sorry to say it's really bad.
Well, but it's like George Carlin said, just by process of elimination, there is the worst doctor. if you take the good ones away, eventually you are going to, just by process of elimination, get to the worst doctor. And this sounds like one of the worst authors.
Well, like I said,
And that has nothing to do. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, go ahead.
it has nothing to do with the person's personality. there are lots of really, really wonderful actors who are just turds of human beings.
Right.
And vice versa. There are a lot of really, really wonderful people who have the talent of a wet couch cushion. Which, if you think about it, is probably not much.
Well, like I said, this person has talent. I can see great writing come from this author. This is just not that.
Wow.
And there are particular names and instances that are really well thought up, and then there are, more often than not, things that don't flow together. Characters that shouldn't really act the way that they have been described.
So they're inconsistent behavior kind of thing? Or?
More like, say, my favorite color is pink, and then I only have black things.
It's like going to a Chinese restaurant and then getting Mexican food.
Yeah.
Wow.
So...
I don't do that a lot.
No.
For example, I will use the main character. He's supposed to be this hardcore, really... I'm not sure how to describe it without saying just badass character.
Uh-huh.
And he comes off as a teenage girl. Like, he gets sick to his stomach and he smiles at pretty ladies. And, I mean, when you think of a really rough pirate, you think of a man who takes everything for granted. And then
when I think of a tough grizzled pirate, I think it's like, oh, pretty ladies, I haven't seen one of those in years.
no, not an old pirate. I mean, like a really buff, dirty pirate who sails the seas, stopping for no one and nothing, getting anything that he wants. That's what I was kind of expecting, and he's kind of like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's too much work.
Oh dear.
And
Oh my god.
Like, half the time I don't even know why he's complaining. Character.
Wow, that's not something you should ever have to say about a main character. It's like, why are you complaining? I know more than
I can't
you do.
relate. I can't relate to him at all.
I think I can relate him to. It's a very poor relation, but we all watched Trigun, haven't we?
I've watched Shark.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like they're going for a Vash the Stampede approach with the character, the personality, but also on the side he's got that really badass fighter and persona, and
That's
Except
done
this-
incredibly wrong. In Vash the Stampede, it was a very good example because he was.
No, I mean like, comparing him to that. It's like he's
This
trying
is
to
what
be.
that's what they were
Oh,
trying
that's
for.
what I'm saying. Vash the Stampede was a very good example of that
Yeah.
because of how well he mixed the two incredibly awesome and ridiculously dangerous and the really funny, nonchalant guy.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm saying this doesn't do it.
This
as
does
well,
not
no.
do that as
No.
well as that did.
Right.
So, characters aside, I won't go into that. My personal experience with writing, I have quite a lot. Characters aside, including my personal experience with writing, which I would have to say is a lot, you should not include as much as you can, not include personal experience. And unless it's a real-time book, not real-time things. For example, this author included names of songs and bands and his personal opinion of those bands, which I don't understand why that was even important to the story aside from adding a background. And if you wanted to add a background, you would just name the type of music that was playing in the background.
Right.
You wouldn't
Well,
name a specific song.
Here's a question. I didn't read the book, obviously, since I have a very low tolerance to that. How far into the future is that supposed to be? Or is it an alternate reality in which it's like now, but...
You know, I read it, but I don't remember. I know that it is pretty far because it had time to... The ocean swelled and took over most of the landmass, and all that stuff.
They
It
have-
says
So
it in the
is it-
first couple chapters,
is
but
it-
I forget.
Is it so far into the future that these bands wouldn't realistically be remembered, or like Rammstein's like Beethoven, or
Well,
well, they're both German, so
from what I
good point.
read, from what I read, it said that he was in an old time bar and they were playing a jukebox which had I can't remember what band exactly, but it was like Breaking Benjamin or 9 Inch Nails or something along those
Hold on a
lines.
sec. A jukebox.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Futuristic situation, jukebox, pirates. I'm betting flying airships.
No,
No,
Nope.
it's all water.
no, it's water.
It's kind of like a water world, basically. Like very small
So
land masses.
it's somewhat steampunk, but not at all.
It's not steampunk at all.
But
It's not. It's
jukebox.
I think
when
the
I
ships
started,
are the ships are the ships aren't metal. They're still old
They're
wood
just-
ships.
they're
right?
the same ships that we have
How is
today
it in the future?
because it's
He has big screen TVs and stereos all throughout the ship.
Oh,
Are the ships- are the
so
ships-
it's the benefits of a futuristic society put in an old time situation.
so are the ships sailing ships?
yes.
They're wooden ships.
So they're all right.
But wait, how do you TV?
Well, yeah.
On-
Well, it's
on,
not.
generators.
on boat.
It's not. It's not so much a matter of how. It's why. I mean, if they have, it doesn't.
There's like no point for a TV there.
Yeah. There's no. And if
There are some developments that are different between our world and theirs. They have different. I'm pretty sure that it has different drugs and alcohol and stuff that can no longer be developed without the landmass that we have now, and that it changed over time that we ran out of land to develop those type of things. But that's the only consideration that I've really caught. Now, I want everyone to keep in mind that I've only read a few chapters of this book.
Okay.
I tried with all my might to actually put the effort and time into reading this book completely. I just could not because it was it was like reading a fan fiction
A bad fan fiction.
with original characters in place of, say,
it makes me wonder.
other important characters of the movie.
Wow. It just makes me wonder though if she's not a fan fiction author who decided to go full on novel herself. Let me see the book. Let me
I
find
have to
out.
say,
And that's not really a knock on fan fiction authors. Some of them are actually really
no,
good.
What I'm saying is that if this is the very first thing that she's ever written, then I applaud her because this is of the work of someone who's been working for a couple of years.
It
If
takes
she has
balls.
been working for a couple of years, then at least she's where she's supposed to be. It needs more work. This needs a couple more years before it's really readable. Like I caught so many grammar errors and spelling mistakes and plot holes and plot conveniences and things that a educated writer would be able to catch. Like I'm kind of a comma Nazi, or commazilla, and I like to put commas everywhere. But
Comma.
when there are no commas whatsoever, that's more of a
Yeah.
problem than having commas everywhere.
Some of this stuff, I'm actually reading the book right now a little bit, and my left eye has started to bleed. But there's some of it. It sounds like that maybe is she a math teacher by any chance? Because some of this sounds like word problems. She was about as tall as Kish, which made her only fractions taller than Gale. And if Johnny were taller than Gale,
How fast would one be going until they reached point X?
yeah, what's the name of the bus driver?
I did have a couple things that I wanted to note on, like why is the Master at Arms commanding the captain, or
What?
How is the master?
How is this possible?
He has
You
more.
there, do this.
He has more. He has more arms. That's
Move the thing.
some of the phrasing,
thing.
like how can you go total dirty Harry? I have no idea what that means. Some people might, but I don't.
Okay, well, okay, that's a really good example of why I was asking why it was from the distant future or from the near future, is that if you make a reference, such as earlier today, I made a reference to something, and I asked if anybody knew what that meant. What was that I asked you about, Ian? About, I said, do you remember? If I said something, anyway, it was a
No,
reference to
actually.
something from the 80s, and of course nobody knew what I was talking about, and that's the thing. Dirty Harry is a series of Clint Eastwood movies where Dirty Harry was the cop. Harry, I think his last name was Calhoun, and he carried the Smith & Wesson Model 42, I think it was, and the 44 Magnum 6-shot revolver. Kaboom! I mean, and it's like that's he was famous in that time.
Right.
And the most famous thing was, I can't remember if I fired 5 shots or 6. Do you feel lucky, punk?
Well, see,
that was
that was from that.
that was from Dirty Harry.
Okay,
I've never
actually saw it.
been into to Clint Eastwood's movies.
Yeah.
I've always been into fantasy stuff,
Yeah.
and that's not really my thing. So
Right.
I didn't know.
Maybe the pirate thing is from the last Dirty Harry movie, because you guys never seen it. Did you see the one I'm talking
I've
about?
seen all of them.
Yeah.
I love Clint Eastwood.
The very last one, he actually shot a guy with a harpoon cannon. He came out of the mist with this harpoon cannon. Boom! His guns kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until finally he ended with a harpoon cannon.
Dirty Harry and Death Wish was just
That
bigger
was-
and bigger. And bigger.
Yeah, just bigger and bigger guns.
That's amazing.
It was great.
Some of my other notices
Uh-huh.
of this book, the word "owned" used by a pirate. Why does that make sense?
Yar, we totally owned that ship.
We owned them nubs.
That doesn't.
Yar.
Yar.
Apparently, the helmsman treats the captain like a dog by patting him on the head and saying "good boy."
The homeless guy?
The helmsman guy.
The helmsman. And he
The
didn't get
helmsman?
stabbed.
The helmsman.
And he didn't get kicked off the ship and eaten by whales.
There are misspelled names, like letters in the wrong areas of names. Those should be the things that have the most consideration in any book whatsoever.
Right, yeah. Especially if they're fantasy-based
Of course.
names.
Oh, here's one. I'm sorry, I'm reading from a list. And
Yeah.
it says...
Like Gandalf the Grey.
You do not use adjectives to describe yourself if it's first person, such as eerie or large. My large hands. You should not use that. That's not proper speech, especially if you use it for yourself, because you know how big your hands are. You don't need to describe it to anybody, even if you are from a story. So, if you say my large hands, it's like all of a sudden they've become larger.
Right.
So you should just say my hand suddenly grasped the thingy. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be like my large hands grasp the thingy. It's like your hands just suddenly got bigger.
Okay, well that having
That should have been somewhere else in the description of the grabbing of the thing.
and I hate to go with the fact that I have a degree in English and creative writing, but I've had a lot of classes, workshop classes about what not to do when you're writing something. It's like cry a single tear and all the cliche crap that a lot of people are very, very tempted to do. That whole show and don't tell thing where you don't say his eyes sparkled with excitement. Instead say he was breathing very heavily and wide-eyed he did something or other, and it's like, and you describe it without saying, oh, he was very excited, because people don't really know what that means.
Right. Like
You know what it means, but it doesn't. And which is another premise from some poetry classes that I've taken, in which the more specific you get about your own life, the more different people can relate to it. You don't say I loved her more than the moon. That's very abstract.
right.
You say, I love the time we spent in the chair in front of your mother's house with the light on in the front porch.
That gives it a very
yeah, go ahead.
it gives a very brief description of something that you can envision as something being magical.
Yeah, and it's something that everybody can relate to in their own way.
Right.
And no matter how many descriptors you put, it's like a giant word monster. Descriptor. And no matter how many of these, no matter how many adjectives that you put on a thing, like my large hand, that doesn't make it any more descriptive.
I just have this image of this monster going, I will completely destroy you all of it the way with my massively destroying Kligot way.
Yes, and that is descriptor, and that's why he died in the first attack. Yes. Because while he was busy descriptoring everything, he was
He is
slain.
a monster of monologue. So, back to this review. Another thing that I picked up on that really bothered a lot of us was the insults. And some of the insults were very childish, like sock monster and dick. Those are things that say...
Remember, grizzled pirate.
Yeah.
No, those are things that...
You are such a dick.
No, this is things that I myself would use because I'm an artist and I think of stupid insults. Hardened pirate would use much worse things that would just ramble on and on about how just much you suck.
Give us an example there.
Well, let's see. Well, he smelled so bad he couldn't have licked the barnacles from the scuppers at high noon.
Ow.
You know, that's,
Yeah,
That hurt.
barnacles
that makes
from the
you
scuppers.
wince just a little bit. But sock monster,
Sock
the
monster.
sock
Wait,
monster
that was an
reference
insult? Sock monster?
It was
Yes.
actually in the book.
You
Yeah.
are a sock monster, as
He-
in the...
was his brother was bandaging his wounds after a fight while they took over the ship that was not yet fully taken over with a sock to cover up his bleeding nose. And so he called his brother Sock Monster because he had a sock on his nose.
Wow, that's...
Childish in the worst way.
One pet peeve of mine that really did show itself in this book, and it's a pet peeve of mine in general, is that when swearing is not used correctly, I consider swearing in itself an art form. It's a certain way to do it to make it sound funny. It's a certain way to do it to make it sound intimidating. It's a certain way to do it to make it even sound calming at times.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in this book,
Shut the hell up, honey.
Daddy's speaking.
That was an appropriate comedy part.
That was really good. Thank you for that example.
You're
That was a very good example.
Except in this book, it's almost as if the people swearing were preteen and teenage children.
Like they just learned the words.
Like they just learned how to
How to-
swear and they're not using it appropriately.
Right.
I think the pirate's boots is called shit kicker and bitch stomper. I'm sorry, but that sounds like a child wrote it.
Right.
It sounds like
those terms are actually, pretty... They were well used back in the 80s.
Right.
But
But-
they were well used back in the 80s.
Well,
this is-
especially for the context that they're in. In my
Right.
opinion, it's not correctly. And the fact that it's used throughout the entire book, whenever they talk about their boots, whenever he talks about his boots.
And the fact that he's the one that's saying them about his own shoes makes him sound like he's just trying to inflate his ego. And I know a lot of people that use cussing to inflate their own egos because they're too self-conscious to use any other method. And I think that it makes him sound very, like I said, childish. It makes him sound very girly, honestly.
And Lyric actually said this, is that it's like they're trying to make themselves sound cool.
Right.
They're trying too hard.
Well,
basically.
do you know what? You know what pirates called boots?
What?
Boots.
With buckles.
Yeah. And what you're saying about the cursing reminded me of something that Rosie O'Donnell said about Melanie Griffith when the two of them hung out a lot. She said, "She's fine. I love her to pieces, but she doesn't know how to cuss. She'll go up and say, instead of saying I want an effing hot dog, I'll go up and say, I want a hot effing dog. She just doesn't put them in the right place. And that was funny.
Well,
I thought.
I thought so.
I'm glad. I'm glad you think so.
there are things that the characters do and say that just come off wrong, and the timing is weird, and it's just so bad.
Yeah.
And the way that the main character reacts to how some people... Okay, for example, he bumped into two pretty girls that weren't watching where they were going. Supposedly they were really short. I'm not sure if they were young. I'm sure that description was in there somewhere, but I totally overlooked it.
Uh-huh.
And they just apologized in the worst speech impediment I have ever read.
They were.
Oh, right, yeah.
And
yeah,
well,
you
let me
told us
finish.
Yeah.
And
we're all like, oh, yeah.
and instead of being angry or threatening or seductive as a grizzly pirate might, if two young girls ran into him, he was just smiled pleasantly and said, "Oh, it's okay," and let them get up like a wonderful mother character.
He sounds like a nanny.
A
So,
ninny.
like, if I were expecting him to get run into someone, I would expect him to go, "Get off me," or something like that.
That's where you're going, twit.
Or something like that. Instead, he's just like, "Oh, no, it's okay. I don't mind." It's okay. And then it just... and, okay, they passed by...
Out of
what-
my way before I smack you with me whalebone.
You wench.
Random, you what?
You wench.
this old guy standing on a roof yelling at people.
Yeah, we call him the Winchler.
Do you need a 5-ton or the 10-ton wench?
Clickety, clickety, click.
So, I don't know what else to say about this book. The cons are many.
Uh-huh.
The pros are, it has potential, and the author does have talent, but it needs so much work that this should not have been published.
Is it like diamond in the rough talent, or is it like undug up potato talent? I don't even know what that means, but it sounded good.
It's,
Yar.
Yar.
it's if she had a little bit of education, maybe a tutor, and maybe if an editor would be nice.
Well, yeah. The best advice, if I may interrupt for a second, the best advice I ever got from a literary agent about writing was, if you have 1 year, if you have a year to write a book, you spend 10 months doing your homework, researching, fleshing out your characters, generate your world, doing the research for your book, because the writing itself is meaningless if you don't have the things that apparently this author doesn't have.
Right.
Background, backstory, and a
Background,
fleshed out world.
Backstories.
Now, there might be...
fleshed out world. I'll just go ahead and repeat everything he said.
Yeah, totally. That's usually how we do things here.
There might be more information further on in the book. There might be more explanations to why certain people do certain things. There might be better descriptions. The writing might get better in the end, but it should not take that long to understand what's going on.
Right.
I went to like chapter 4, I think. It took me to chapter 4. Each chapter was a couple pages only, but I remember getting to chapter 4, reading the first paragraph, and setting it down because I had a migraine.
Wow. And you know, the thing of it is, a lot of people mistake description for exposition. And superfluous exposition does not a fleshed out spherical character make.
Oh, I didn't even get to
'Cause,
chapter 4.
H.P. Lovecraft's one of my favorite authors. And he wrote this one thing. Someone asked him about how to, advise people how to write, and he said, explain nothing.
Oh, wait, no, I did get to chapter 4.
He said, explain nothing. And yet, the Cthulhu mythos is it's enormous. And I'm not just talking about the size of the older gods. I'm talking about the popularity. And yet he explained nothing. He described everything to a T, but he gave the exposition in such a way that everything was vivid and clear, but he explained nothing.
It's amazing.
And that takes skill.
True talent.
True talent.
So, chapter 5 is a time skip. A year and 4 months later, that's very random time.
That's also very specific. It's like 1 year, 5 months, 36 hours, and 2 days.
3 seconds.
But the end of chapter 4 is just...
All that time later, I found a clock.
No, but I'm
to the
in the end of chapter 40. No, on page 40,
Jesus.
chapter 4, I found one spelling error and a lot of weird acting.
Wow.
I gave him a wicked smile. I doubt that. You're kind of a perfectionist. He shrugged, unabashed. What can I say? I'm as good as I think I am. Who says that?
Granted, this
no.
is in 11 lines that you found that.
Wow.
It just,
Well, they can't all be
Tolkien.
masters. Yeah, they can't all be Tolkien. That's a they can't all be Tolkien award for this. That's
So
good.
I feel very apologetic that this has to be such a very negative review.
Well, you didn't hold a gun to her head and said write some crap.
But
I think she did that all on her own.
well,
I don't like to be mean either. I love positive things,
Yeah, you
but
do.
I don't.
That's
But-
Shut up before he punches you.
Shut up or I'll punch you in the mouth. No, I don't like being negative. I like filling my life with positive energy and positive light and all, good stuff. And I wish everything that came across our desk was
fantabulous.
fantastic. And nothing would make me happier because I love good stuff. I don't like
Yeah.
I don't like eating rotten food and I don't like reading crap.
And this isn't the first thing that we've come through that's bad.
Oh, absolutely.
So
no.
we're not like we're
And
not piling on.
Yeah.
Just
And it won't be the
Well,
last, I'm sure, unfortunately. But
I feel like I forgot to mention the cover because I did, and it leaves very. It's just not. I don't know. It's very minimalistic, and all it has is a skull and crossbones.
Okay.
Very piratey, and a few notches on the cover, and it's just that's. What does that say? What does that mean to
That
me?
says Pirate Book of Death and Destruction and Mayhem. To me.
No, it just to me it
and the
looks
inside
like
does not.
a mystery novel, or
Totally, yeah, I completely agree with that one. It looks like
like what's gonna happen in this book?
it's
That's
like
what
if,
this.
if you
That's
put
what
I'm
this
only going to
says.
get so far, and then I'm going to throw up and put it down and never pick it up again.
it's like if you put like a spyglass, not spyglass.
Oh,
magnifying
no.
glass on there. What?
They ended the chapter right away in speech with a comma. There is no period in that statement right
Okay,
away.
so rule number 1, proofread your book.
Commas everywhere.
Commas everywhere.
Get an editor.
Get an editor and not your mother. Unless your mother is an editor, of
Then hey,
course.
you luck out.
And then, yeah. So on a scale of 0 to 4 axes, 0 being...
The most abysmal thing that I've ever read, and 4 being Tolkien. I would have to say a 1.
A 1.
A 1.
Not a half axe, a full axe.
A full axe because,
It's
like I
bad.
said, there is talent there. It has potential, but it has so much wrong with it that it just...
It sounds
Two-
like she went
two
off pretty
is-
half-axed.
No,
was bad.
2 for my personal scale.
Scared.
Scared.
Yar! For me personal scale.
For my personal scale of axes, 2 is publishable. This is a 1, and saying that, honestly, I would honestly love to read it if it was edited. The back description. If the story had actually been based off the back description instead of vice versa, I would have totally read it and enjoyed it.
A point you brought up was the fact that he's never been alone in the entire story you read so far.
From what I read, he was always with someone, and it said solitary life on the back. Like, he was with his half brother the entire time,
or
a adopted
pirate
brother.
ship?
Crew.
You have a solitary pirate ship. Boy, it was a lot of work.
Storms were rough.
The storms were rough and a ship went wherever the hell it wanted. Because when I was skewering the wheel,
Stab, stab, stab.
when- Yarr.
Yar.
The ship was going up and down. Oh my god. Well, that's unfortunate. Hopefully this will be. Oh yeah.
Speaking of the cover, I actually like the cover.
Yeah.
I think sometimes less is more.
Oh, I agree.
And when I first picked this up, it's Skull and Crossbones, the God of Death. The font's actually really nice.
It's very fitting.
The what with these on the
corner
corners?
thingies?
The corner artwork is
Oh,
something
the little,
very much of a
embellishmental filigrees.
yeah, almost like it was a leather-bound journal.
Yeah,
Sure, that's what
I
it was.
agree
Yeah.
with you.
And
It's-
it looks good, and it's kind of like the old video games back in the old Atari days, where the cover looks great, it looks awesome, and then you play it and you're like, wow, this
Stick figures,
this
awesome.
isn't.
Well, like I said, it has a cover of a mystery novel. Minimalist is very mystery, and this it would fit if it were a different story.
It's like you're expecting a mystery novel, pirate book of awesomeness and death and destruction, and you
Take
get a teen drama.
Take the back and the front cover off.
Twilight in the high seas.
No, take the back cover
Not the
and the
seas,
front
yeah,
cover
the
off,
boats.
and replace the story inside with what the back says, and then it would be perfect.
Yes. So, in essence, what you're saying is if you're going to write a book, don't put more work into the cover than the contents.
Exactly.
Or at least make them match.
Make them match, right, yes.
Yeah, that'd be
Balance it out. So, if she wanted to make them match, she would have drawn the front cover with a crayon.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah, okay.
With the backwards
I don't,
R.
The fact that we all can't really deny that is
Yeah,
the sad.
it's sad. It's really sad.
I wish.
and I feel bad.
No, I wish that it had been what I was expecting. Because if it were, I would have said this is probably one of the best books I've ever read.
I was actually
But-
excited to read it, and then
Very disappointed.
So, being nice does not a good book make.
Right.
right.
Being a nice
So-
person. Okay.
But I agree with Lyric. I'd give it a 1 out of
Alright.
4.
So
1
just
out of 4 all around the table.
I didn't read it.
I didn't either.
If it
I
was-
didn't read it from the feed forward that I was getting from Lyric and Josh. Because,
If 2 is publishing, if it had maybe another year of work with the
No,
editors
no,
and
I
all
think-
that, I think it would have been fine.
I think a complete redo would have to take place to save this book.
A complete sentence structure redo would
just
be more
rewrite the
appropriate.
entire thing.
And I believe it's the first book in a series of books.
Oh, yes.
she's writing more.
That one was already
man.
published. I think number 2 in the book was already published. Which I don't know how there's a second one because from what I read at the end, it just
So
I
Does anyone want to know how it ends?
well,
Yeah, well, let's avoid the spoilers just in case there are some masochists
No,
out
it's just
there.
the bad last sentence is really bad.
Some
bad sentence is bad.
bad sentence. No, we'll save it for if anybody really wants to read it. If there are any cutters out there that like.
Give you some torture device.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That's unfortunate because I did hear that she was a nice person from
Yeah, she really was. and it's-
everybody, and
I don't want it to come off that we're attacking her by any means.
it sounded more like you guys are defending yourselves than attacking her because of
I'm gonna be completely honest. It was a bad book. It was bad writing. It was bad character development. There were so many plot holes, and this is just in the first 4 chapters that I read.
Uh-huh.
I don't honestly want to torture myself with the rest of the book. I mean, I flipped through it a couple times because sometimes I was just like, you know what, I have to find it. I have to find out what goes on, and I don't want to sit through it all, so I'm just going to glimpse. And I glimpse, and I find more errors.
I think a rule of story writing is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you should have the audience buy the first chapter.
Right.
Right.
That
You
is
should have
true.
by the first couple of sentences.
That's what I've heard. I've heard from some people.
Maybe in the prelude, I don't know.
I've heard some people who, well, some of my professors are in my undergrad studies in English were published authors, and they said that anytime they sat on a board of a writing contest or any kind of a submission board or whatever of any of the publications that they edited, that they would read a piece, and if it didn't grab them, some people said, the professors I had were fairly nice. They said that if it didn't grab them in the first couple of sentences, that they would just not even bother with the rest of it. But they said there were some people who, if the first couple of words didn't catch them, they would just stop reading it. They'd be like, it was oh no, screw that, and they would just throw it away. So the hook, the catch has to be there from the very, very beginning, or you lose them.
Well, the very, very beginning of
What's
this.
the first couple of words?
Captain Skull, yelled one of my crewmen.
Okay, see now right there, that is just about the single most cliche tripe that I've ever heard from. Now, if that was deeper in the book, but I don't want to be introduced to a book or any piece of writing with the words Captain Skull. It's like that is just cliche. It's just total garbage.
At least then there's like, Captain Skull, oh, that's his name. Close the book, throw it in the fire.
Throws it away.
Moving
Yeah,
on
yeah.
with my life.
Oh, good. I'm out of toilet paper. We'll put this book in the bathroom.
The acknowledgments actually lead on to the fact, well, very obviously, that she based some of the characters off of her friends and family. While that isn't bad,
No, it's
It's-
not bad.
it's not necessarily a winning theme.
Okay, so
Well, take Tolkien's The Hobbit first
Uh-huh.
sentence. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit.
see right there.
Yeah,
right
I'm like,
there.
what's going on?
You got me. In a hole in the ground lived a hobbit. Well,
What's a hobbit?
what's a hobbit? What's he doing?
Why is he in the ground?
Why is he in a hole? What is
Why
that?
does he live?
Just those words. Just those words.
They almost sound poetic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of early stories were written in verse. All of Shakespeare's stuff was written in verse. It was,
Well, Shakespeare is amazing.
iambic pentameter. But I don't know why I said it like that. But yeah, it's all the Greek plays were written in rhymes so people could remember their lines and so forth and so on. So every single word. One of my favorite poets is a lady named Gertrude Stein, and she wrote some really messed up poetry. But she said something that stuck with me, and I urge this author, if they hear what we're saying, if they've listened this far without screaming and crying and punching a hole through their computer because they don't want to hear any more of
We
us
apologize.
destroying her.
We truly do.
Well, we do.
Do we?
But you got to earn our disgust. But what Gertrude Stein says, before she writes a word in any poem that she has written, that she gets the full, she studies that word until she gets the full measure of that word's weight before she writes it down. Okay, I don't think everybody has to do that in order to write a good book, because obviously if
would
you
take a very long time.
Right, if you study every word you use until you understand everything about every single word, I mean that's a huge task. Then you understand everything about every word, and you can write it down with confidence and know what you're saying, even if other people don't know what you mean. This book sounds like maybe English is her second language. I don't know.
To me, it's like she put a half-hearted effort forward, and she did it in her free time, and she's doing it as a hobby, And
Somebody read it and said you need to publish it.
Yeah.
and
yeah, that's
then
what
she
I'm
was like,
thinking,
okay,
too.
whatever. And it's like she didn't really even.
Am I really
care.
that good?
It didn't. No, it seemed to me that she didn't even really care that much about her own work.
It's
And if you had more feeling for your own book, why would you torture yourself by putting this out for other people to read?
and torture themselves. And the other thing that I was thinking is it reminds me a lot of some of those really really diluted like X Factor and American Idol auditions to get up and they can't. Oh yeah, everybody says I'm great. Ah! You know, and they do stuff like that.
I don't know why they didn't like me. It was fabulous.
Oh,
But-
so yeah.
But yeah, that's what we think.
Okay, so that was A.J. Howell's The God of Death, a Jesse Skull. Oh, that's the Captain Skull. Arr.
Yes.
Yar, Captain Skull. I'm in everything. I'm the cliche pirate. I sailed the
Skulls are so overdone.
ruthless and cold. Jesse was raised by some of the most feared pirates, including the Blue Court's legendary leader, the sea god Malachi. Okay, well, that's fine. The book didn't live up to all the work she put into the cover. So it got two. Well, no, it got one.
2 out of
axe.
8.
2 out of
If you
8.
wanna do it that way.
Total axes given. One axe is actually through the cover. And so that's unfortunate, but it happens. Next up, we're going to discuss.
We are going to do the DT tips on how to make a good backstory
Ho ho.
and the importance of
Yo-ho.
why your character should have them.
And what
Awesome.
that book did not.
Yeah. This is Dwarven Tavern Radio, and we will be back in a moment. And we're back. Thanks for being here. This is Dwarven Tavern Radio, and we are discussing. We just finished a review of a really horrid book, which was unfortunate. But now we're going to talk about something more pleasurable with DT tricks and tips for your role-playing success. And today's offering is backstories, how to do them, and why are they even important. So, Lyric, why are they important?
Well, there are a few reasons. One that I can think of would be it could help with role-playing your character out when the Dungeon Master asks you just exactly what you're doing in this particular situation.
So it's a decision-making tool, then?
I would say so. I mean,
It could also be a very good interaction tool between characters when role-playing between them.
Certainly. Something to think about.
but
In a world.
In a
Well-
world.
for example, I had a really hard time coming up with just who my characters were for a very long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea how to roleplay them or how they would interact with other characters until one day I had a paladin
Uh-huh.
whose backstory was that his mother was, this is kind of vulgar, but his mother was raped by an orc passing through on a raid.
Just
And-
orcs are vulgar. Doesn't have to be
Just
rape involved.
Orcs.
It's just-
Yeah,
just
it's like,
Well-
it's like you look at an orc. Ugh.
that's vulgar.
Well,
Get it.
she got pregnant from it, had a half orc, went insane because of it, and he was a very sensitive child. Not like he was like, oh, don't touch me. No, he was more of a. He was very calm and collected, and he loved the arts, and he was very gentle. But she would beat on him because he reminded her of her rapist, and one day she grabbed a sickle, said that she couldn't stand it anymore, and she slashed his cheek open. And that caused him to go into a barbarian rage because of his orcish blood, and he killed her.
Right.
And when he got out of his rage, he felt so ashamed of himself that at first he was shocked, and he took the sickle and ran. And
And then he flew away.
and he ended up in the forest somewhere crying because he had just killed his mother, the only person who had even really noticed him.
So he killed her, and then he felt out of kilter.
And he felt so bad that he went to the nearest church or monastery or whatever religious building there was and asked for forgiveness. And the priest there asked him to explain, and he was only 5 years old. So he did his best to explain, and the priest, of course, knew of the raid that went on. And they said, well, maybe you should avenge your mother by taking your father out, basically.
Right.
Because your
Put
father...
a hit in
I
on
could
your
s-
father.
I could see the priest asking him, so, little feller, you ugly little boy, tell me what's wrong.
Well, my mother, I just killed my mother. She thought I was her father, blah, blah, blah. Or my father,
Just
whatever.
the circle of life.
He became, he took on the god of that church because the priest set him on his way, and he
The
became
Prius?
a priest.
Okay.
And set him,
Meep, meep.
set him on
Great
his.
gas mileage.
The only thing that could catch a sickle. Couldn't do it on foot. Go ahead, please. Forgive our immature and childlike ranting.
So he took on the deity of that church and said that he would lead him to righteousness, and he became a paladin, and he is very much the human of his heritage, except for when someone sees, touches, or makes any sort of remark about his face, because that is the epitome of his shame.
Right.
So there was actually one character, a friend of mine, who was dumb enough to. He covers his face with half of his hair because he can't stand to see himself. And she moved his hair out of his face, and instantly he went orcish, and pinned her to the ground and threatened to kill her. And her character didn't learn from that, and eventually killed her because she wouldn't leave it alone.
Wow.
So.
Things not to say to an orc. Hey, what's with the face?
I was born like this. Oh.
So, okay.
Stab.
Luck of the draw.
So, his backstory leads on to be that he is a very kind, gentle person. He would react to anyone or anything with the thought of caring and loving and gentle, unless it has something to do with orcs, a particular orc clan, because he
Right.
knows everything about his father, and so he's searching the lands for him. And if it has anything to do with those untouchable subjects, then obviously he becomes more dark and demeaning.
Right.
If I had not had that backstory, then where did the scar come from? Why is he a paladin? He's a half-orc.
Or even the scar at all. I mean,
Right.
a lot of characters are just like,
They're pristine.
I rolled up a fighter.
Okay.
Okay.
That's deep.
So that's one of my examples of that's Bronx, my half-orc paladin.
Oh, Bronx, yeah.
Yeah, I love him. To death.
Dude. Baruch.
Baruch.
Baruch is amazing.
He doesn't have a backstory.
He doesn't. Thing is, Baruch is a good example of a character who instantly formed. His backstory didn't exist, and all of a sudden falls into some water. Giant Ganacon was like, "I'm eat you." He's like, "Nope, I'm eat you."
Well, I wrote about Baruch in the blogs on dwarventavern.net, so you can read all about Baruch on there, and it's pronounced with a Japanese R.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
So he's a character that didn't have a backstory, but was able to form based on something that his player wanted. Just a brief summary. Baruch was created because I needed a character to act out in order to get myself out of this shadow of shyness and self-deprecation. So he was my character to build my own self-esteem, and it worked miraculously.
Right, yeah, I'd say.
So, Ian, what about you? Do you have any backstory advice or example that you'd like to bring up?
Well, I have a character that's practically all backstory, and he's a pirate, which, kind of goes with the theme. His name is Long John Silver.
Oh, original.
Original, but awesome. He is a polymorphed silver dragon who is a pirate.
Who is a silver dragon.
We're role-playing the age of the complete and total downfall of magic. There's like almost nothing magical. And he was the age of a silver dragon in which it was like, life kind of sucks and everything wants me dead. So I'm going to go down and see how things go. I'm a freaking dragon. What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? Slay me or something? I don't know. I don't think so. Bada
Like,
bing.
they'll snip, and then like, whatever. They've got like his like a list of feats and all that good stuff, but his actual strength doesn't mean anything to the campaign. He's some of the most fun I have had playing a character because it doesn't matter. He's technically a level he's like a level 26 equivalent.
Yeah, he's got a
And,
level adjustment of 26 or something
Yeah,
like that.
because I was like, I'm gonna roll the dragon, whatever. And I rolled him up because of the name. He is a pirate, Long John Silver, because he is a silver dragon. And it was that was amazing. And what turned out, the fact that he is so ridiculously arrogant and cocky, he became one of the most fun characters to play we played him like twice.
Yeah, we played him twice. We had a couple.
And it was so fun.
Yeah.
Because he actually, in the first sitting, he walked into, he's like, I don't have a ship, because he flew to this island, make sure no one was there. He's wearing, he had like a purple jacket. He had this massive cape with like red velvet on the inside. He has a big fluffy pirate hat, super duper stereotypical
Swash freaking buckler.
swash freaking buckler. He actually is a level 1 swashbuckler.
Swashbuckler.
Swashbuckler with a level a level adjustment of 26. So that'll be
It'll be a while before he gets to
while
level
before he
2.
levels up. But the swashbuckler would there's just those simple things on a dragon with a natural like 4 attacks
Yeah.
is unbelievably strong.
Yeah.
It's like you could hit everyone you hit or everyone that missed you get to hit again. I have 4 attacks.
Yeah.
I basically get 8 attacks around with that. But the thing is, none of that mattered at all because we weren't throwing. Dad, as the DM, was not throwing anything at him that could possibly challenge him at all.
Which was exactly the point.
That was the exact point. Like just
It was like,
regular.
what would
people.
happen if a dragon polymorphed himself into a human and went among them and did whatever he wanted?
Yeah.
A lot of DMs wouldn't allow that because of this.
They wouldn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, and it's this. They've got this weird obsession with game balance. They think that everything has to, and that's the thing that I don't like about the 4th edition, is everything is supposed to be balanced, and everything is okay. Every time your characters go out, they should get this many experience points, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
they
I
should,
can't stand
exactly 2.7 encounters they should level up, and blah blah blah.
That's saying that life is fair.
Yeah,
And
yes,
Yeah.
that's
that was
that's
absolutely
definitely
perfect.
applause.
life is not fair. It is the exact opposite.
It's
Right.
like there can be a situation. Actually, several times in my campaigns, the 2 have been DM'd. When there is a situation, you see something, you have the decision whether I want to fight it or not get owned completely, because it may completely kill you. And I threw something at the characters, which I believe Lyric and my friend Sebastian got royally destroyed by 2 hits.
Yeah.
By this, what was it? It was a, it was a hell-spawned, fiendish, dire.
Just end
It
it
wasn't dire.
Just end it there.
Giant,
so that's
giant
all.
space hamster.
Giant space hammer. It was a were
Named
gray
Boone.
render,
Named Bruno.
Oh, that
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
and it was on fire. It was bleeding lava practically, and it only did 2d6. And
I bleed lava too after a night of White Castles.
but its actual hit, it did 1d6 from the actual slam of the hit, a d6 for the claws, and then 2d6 fire. What destroyed them? Because this was Aldous was in that campaign. He is a level 9 paladin.
8 paladin.
Level 8 paladin. We have a level 6.
What's the Holy Avenger?
Or the Holy Avenger. A level 6. Where's your dude? Zurthok?
Oh, he's a Goliath.
Goliath, there we go.
Barbarian.
Bargar!
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's another.
What
that's
level
another
is he?
story.
He's 4.
Barador.
Now
Barador.
he's now 5, but he was
Barador is
4.
now 5. And Sebastian's character is a level 2 monk in this campaign. And this thing attacked him first. It did maximum damage, threw him through a wall, which did the window outlet did 5 damage, and then hitting the ground did 10. And then that completely incapacitated him. If it wasn't for a separate event going on, he actually would have completely died.
Yeah.
But, anyways, back to
Yeah,
what we were
back to the
talking about.
backstory. Now, Josh actually did your very first in-depth backstory here recently. Tell us about that.
Okay, so my pretty much main character that I play is one I've played the most. I've spent the most time with.
Uh-huh.
It's probably my favorite character, just because I've spent that much time with it and really learned him about what he is. He's an elf, full elf, though he's part Lachey.
Mm-hmm.
And his name's Niven Nukwe.
Okay.
Now, Niven, I've
Rhymed.
started.
What?
that
He's
rhyme.
part Lachey.
Just want to throw that out there.
He's
Might-
part Lachey named Niven Nukwe.
He won't go away because he's here to stay.
But Niven was.
So what's the rap on him?
But Niven was my first solo campaign character, my first and only solo campaign character that Lyric and I started, and I wanted to solo campaign I wanted to do it first and foremost for the ability to practice my own role playing,
Sure.
and to play a magic user. He started out as a level 1 sorcerer. Really had no backstory for him. He started out as a sorcerer, and then Lyric, as the DM, helped the backstory in the beginning, giving me siblings, and I grew up in a port city.
A lot of wine there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
some cheese and crackers.
Some cheese and crackers, of course.
And it was one of the
Backstory.
hardest things I had to do because I didn't know anything about him. I was basically playing him kind of the way that I would be, like as me,
Right,
Because
yeah.
I didn't know anything about him, and that stayed for a while. And the thing about backstories is when you have it, like Ian said, it helps with the role playing, and also it helps with the DM to figure out storyline ideas.
Yeah, it's like
because
what
they
you're
have
supposed
the
to do.
background. Right.
Like, what is your character know? What has he been around all this? Like, Larry's character Bar Ardor, he's from the Red Mountain, and I can actually take parts from that area of the Red Mountain and put it into the campaign because I know where he is from and what he should understand. Because in the Red Mountain, it's all about construction, machinery, big stuff, diggy. They're all dwarves. They're like, we need a bigger drill.
Let's make one.
Make a freaking bigger drill. So when I
Bada
see
boom,
when
bada
he
bing.
sees a big drill, he knows, hey, I know what that does.
I know how to work it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to help Lyric, and Lyric is the one that pushed me to do the backstory. She said, okay, when you do the backstory, you need to flesh out your character, and it'll help the role playing and understanding. And I used that. I used his the fact that he started as a level 1 sorcerer, and I made that part of the backstory as where when he was a child, when he was a child, I wrote in the backstory about his family, his siblings, the city they grew up in, children and friends that they played with, incidences that led him to discover his magic, backstory on, even a little bit of backstory on his mother and father, who he was born to a single family, born to a single mother, and his best friend, Kellery, an orc, who he did not meet until he was later on, past his childhood.
Kellery is a half-orc, correct?
Yes.
half
Okay.
orc.
Yeah.
And
we actually have orc characters, so.
And I made it a point in the backstory saying that this is a port city. There's races of all kind around the city. So there would be a whole lot of mingling, a whole lot of desegregation, in my opinion.
A whole lot of shaking going on.
Yes, and bake.
There were lots of half orcs and half elves and half things.
Half, half otherwise.
Yeah.
Half other.
Fill in the blank.
And I realized while writing this backstory that his entire reason for leaving to go on this adventure was he really had no idea who he was. He had no idea who his father was. And he was kind of told all of his life since he discovered his magic that there was something special about him from his family and his mother, and that this magic was more powerful than what he thought, which eventually led him to seek out a old sorcerer in the swamp called Drugrom, at least a legend of an old sorcerer in the swamp. And through that, he discovered his warlock abilities. So right now he's a level 3 warlock, level 2 sorcerer, I think. But the reason I fleshed out his character, and I realized that it's a character that really doesn't know who he is.
Okay.
That he's kind of brash. He's kind of arrogant, I guess would be the right word.
Yeah.
But he's that way because he's never had a reason to not be that way. He's never been challenged or put through some great struggle to humble him or to, you know,
Right.
Make him
And what you're doing in creating a backstory is not just saying, well, he's arrogant and he's this and that and the other thing. You're actually giving him a reason to be the way he is, and it
Right.
makes it easier to role play.
right. And it also makes it easier for the DM to write storyline around it. Because
Sure.
right now, the only thing that he really cares about are his friends, his family, and
I didn't even think he cared about that much.
Yeah.
I'm saying from what he's role played without a backstory, I thought he only really cared about getting stronger as a warlock.
Uh-huh.
So having this backstory
And
allows
that's-
me to understand that he has feelings for other human beings.
Right.
And that's how it
As
was.
the DM.
And that's how it was. And what she said is how it really was before I wrote a backstory. I didn't have a reason for anything. And after doing that, I have a reason.
Right.
I'm starting to feel it. Like, even in the backstory, I took the extra time to write down children that he played with as friends,
That's
whether
very
they were, okay, they're human female, human male, they're dwarf male, they're a halfling male, female, whatever. Their names are this and this. And
He did come up with some
as
really
a child,
cool names.
as a children, they were our friends. But now that they're adults, this guy's a guard. This guy's a smuggler. This guy's a sailor. This guy's a caravaner, or he's a marketeer or something.
Uh-huh.
So I really
And-
took
Okay, so
a lot of time and to try and make that entire city and that entire background, which was really his only background, was that city. Try to breathe some life into it.
sure. And that makes perfect sense because in one of the many theater classes that I had in my undergrad work, I learned through because I was trying to do some playwriting and plays and acting.
Plays
And
and plays and plays.
just ask Vin Diesel. It's all role playing. It's what actors do. So anytime you get advice from a theater person, it's always applicable to good role playing. And this particular advice was whenever you're writing a play, you should take the time to write a very, very deep and detailed backstory of every character in your play that doesn't even none of their backstory ever has to actually show up in the play. This backstory is for the sole use of the actor or the role player. And that's what you have done, because not only have you fleshed out your own character, but you've developed a closeness to him now that was never there before, because up until you knew what his actual story was, he was just a flat piece of paper, two-dimensional,
With writing on it.
with writing on it, and you didn't really know what to do with him. And now that he's all fleshed out, he's spherical. He's not just rounded. He's actually three-dimensional to you. And that'll provide a really, really good source of behavior that you can refer to when you're trying to make decisions on him behalf, because he's smart.
Yours just brought up a very good point. If you remember recently, you came up with a new campaign design that we played and was incredibly fun. And
yeah.
you speaking
Yeah.
about fleshed out and detailed and having information about your character was the greatest part about that campaign.
Right.
If you would care to elaborate.
Yeah, my idea was to have. I rolled up 4 characters, and these characters were to be the people that are playing, obviously. And there were 4 of us. It was Ian and Lyric and Josh and Sebastian. And they they woke up in a facility under extreme duress, and none of them had any memory of their identities of themselves.
Well, we picked the characters through a random
They picked the characters through. That's right. They picked the characters through random random
Number.
order or whatever.
It was
Yeah,
literally a draw out of a bag.
yeah.
draw a number
they drew
out
out
of
of
a
a bag, which was which was really odd because they got the characters. At first, I was going, okay, Ian gets this one, Lyric gets that one, Josh gets that one, Sebastian gets that one. But instead, I thought better of it, and I said, let's do it at random to make it really interesting. And they picked the characters that I meant for them anyway, which was totally bizarre. But they had to learn about themselves in the actions that they did. It's like Lyric found out that she
I had a computer use that I could.
The phenomenally high computer use.
I understand what this device is in front of me.
Yeah,
if
it was
I press this button and put this wire here, bing, the door open.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was a door, and she's like, "Oh, that's a Wassman 9000. I'll just rip this cover off, and this wire goes there." And they're like, "How did I know that?"
Yeah, and we had absolutely no information on the character sheet. We had their number.
Their number. It was
That
just
was
a
it.
number.
It was just a blank character sheet and their number, and we've slowly been filling it out. And I think I think Josh deduced his strength. His
I
strength
think it's
score.
20 something.
Yeah.
It's 21 or
And
22.
we had no idea that these
Yeah.
characters were so ridiculous. We don't even know what level they are. So we're like, what the hell? It's like, he got thrown against the wall, and 5 damage was reduced. And we're like, you have a natural 5 damage? What the hell are you?
Yeah,
Like, we're
and,
not level 1. That's impossible.
I think what we've deduced so far is what type of hero we are, because
Yeah,
we're
roughly.
playing with the D20 modern system. So we're like, okay, so Sebastian's a fast hero. I'm a dedicated hero, and stuff like that. But that's the only thing that we figured out, and we don't even know if that's right.
Yeah, because I haven't told them the secrets of
And
their characters.
Despite not knowing what the characters are, it's really fun to flesh them out, because Ian and I both have this weird tendency that when we have a character that we don't know, we automatically take on this one persona where Ian's this big tough guy and I'm this leader who's scrawny and skinny and doesn't know what she's doing. And those were in fact the characters that they were.
No, there is a character you have that is exactly like that.
Garth?
Garth.
Yes.
He's like, I'm the leader here. So you're gonna talk to the mummy?
I'm gonna cry myself to sleep tonight. Thank you for letting me do that.
Actually, I
stop that.
planned on curling up in the fetal position over there in the corner and sucking on my thumb for a while. Why don't you go ahead and do that for me?
Hey,
Hey, thanks.
because Garth is suave.
In the worst way whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, my advice for those listening is if you have a character that you are separated from, that you don't know who they are, that you feel that they have a distance between you, that you can't quite grasp who that person is,
Sounds like starting a commercial.
I suggest a backstory. It doesn't.
Buy the Dwarven Tavern backstory generator. That's all your character needs.
Is your character flat? Has he not been run over by a stagecoach?
Then you need.
You need
We'll get
backstory.
We'll get the air pump and pump him back up.
No, but I'm saying that if your character is flat and you just don't know who he is, then write a backstory. It doesn't have to be detailed like out the wazoo.
Make some crap up.
Yeah, it's gaming. You can do that.
Hey, yeah. It's like,
How good
I,
can you
Can
lie?
I be from this
Yeah.
place at this time? It's like, DM's like, well, no. It's like, oh, can I be awesome? Like, can I be from here where there are dragons? There be dragons over there? It's like, sure. You're not part dragon, but you were from that area. It's like, I know what skills I'm getting now. It's like,
Well-
I'm gonna get knowledge local and knowledge dragon kind.
Well, I think that
Speak Draconic.
if
How's it
you
going?
don't know what to do with your character, and you don't know what to write for a backstory, then maybe you could give it over to a friend. Maybe not the DM.
Head over here, make some crap up.
That would be a fun experiment to try out.
then
Have
people write your
roll
backstories?
up characters and then switch character sheets and have a friend or a campaign member write up that backstory for that
I
character.
couldn't
That-
switch with Sebastian because nothing would change.
I'm
That
saying with-
might actually have to happen.
so
Well,
if listeners, if you do this, then you should definitely send us feedback on how it works. So if you have a character rolled up and send it to a friend and have them do a backstory, play a campaign, see how it works out, and let us know how it happens. Because
Definitely,
we would be
definitely.
totally interested in that.
Hell, send your
Like,
backstory to us. We'll help.
You know what it would be
Oh,
like.
we
Yeah,
We could totally do that.
we could. The best backstory will win a set of dice. How's that?
That sounds fair.
Okay.
I like it.
So here's another good thing. It's like scenes from a hat. You
Right,
know, where
yeah.
you take the random backstories and my character has herpes. What? He ran away from home because
Mine's the Queen of England. Okay.
Alrighty.
Well, I actually discovered.
we are amused.
Wait, I'm a sand person?
I discovered online that I was just after I'd finished his backstory, I was just playing around and I was wondering. So I typed into Google, who is not sponsoring our show,
Everybody Googles. Don't be ashamed.
that I just typed in random NPC backstory generator or something along those lines.
Uh-huh.
And it was interesting because this website popped up. I think it was like the first or second URL. The first or second URL, and it just took me to a simple page that said number of characters, races, and all that. And I wanted to hit 5, so it just rolled up 5 random characters.
You just wanted to hit 5.
Yeah, and it rolled
Man,
up
you
5
woke up and said, "Man, I'm gonna hit 5 today."
it rolled up.
You might not need to do that. It's like, why? I hit 6.
It rolled up 5 random characters, 5 random names, gave them all skills, and you could put what level you wanted. And it also gave them a very, albeit very small, like one couple sentence backstory. It was like, this character is timid around blank. This character,
Okay.
he was abused or raised by blank, and his motivation for doing this is blank. And
Well,
stuff like that.
that's a good
Yeah,
way
that is-
to make it feel like it's your story.
Introduce
It's like
and
Mad
to
Lib.
introduce newcomers to the whole backstory concept.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Then they can elaborate on that. My character was raised by chipmunks. That's why I bite nuts. So watch out.
Oh, God.
Don't
He
make
has a
me
bite
mad.
attack. Of 2d6.
Yeah, but I get 75 attacks around. Okay, well that's about all we have time for in this episode edition of the Tavern. So we're going to actually, if you can post that link or send me that link
I'll find it
to the
when
backstory
I'll
thing,
find it.
I'll put that on the website, and we'll go from there. So, does anybody have any parting thoughts?
Well, backstory is ridiculously important. However, if you have a character that doesn't have a backstory and the character isn't really fleshed out, make one, or have your character just like discover it or something. The backstory, it can really, really make or break a character, but a character doesn't need one.
Okay.
Also, the DM, if the players are having trouble, they come to the DM saying, "I don't know what this character is" and whatnot. The DM can take charge and say, "Well, you came from this area, and you have this many siblings, and you have a father who's from this area," and the DM can be of assistance if you yourself cannot. That's why I suggested trading off your characters to a friend so that they can write the backstory for you.
Okay.
You got anything, Josh? Or just
Uh,
Any passing thoughts, or you just
and
gonna,
Josh is like, that book was bad.
you're just gonna curl up? Book bad, pirates talk.
Book bad axe.
Axe 1. So you got any parting thoughts to perhaps newbies?
Well,
Noobs.
Noobs.
as everybody said, and as I said with my story for my character, I didn't know who he was until I had the backstory, really. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't truly know who he was until I had the backstory. So, I would suggest definitely doing a backstory if you want. Like Ian said, some characters don't need it, some people do, but that's honestly depending on who's playing him.
Okay.
It depends on because he can have the greatest backstory in the world, but if I cannot play him correctly, then it doesn't matter.
Right. I agree with that, and I think that's good gaming. I
But
think
yeah,
that's good. GG. Definitely.
Try to flesh out your characters and kind of just create a world for your character.
Yeah.
if the DM hasn't, ask your DM if he's already kind of have a world created, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
Right.
Or you can flesh out your own area, like I did.
Okay.
So-
That's really good advice. Really
Like,
good advice.
For Lyric has an entire map of my world created, a massive map of my world created.
That's awesome.
So
Very awesome.
that's my passing thoughts, and like I said earlier, I mean, they can send us. May send us your backstory. We'll tell you what we think of it, or if we think you should add anything, and maybe tell us more about the character.
Oh,
Give
I think
them
it's
advice.
terrible.
Our opinions might
Yeah.
not be the best.
And
Well, no, I think
Send
we
us
have a pretty good
opinions.
opinion.
send us your backstory, and as always, send us your gaming-related questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. Good advice. So, that will conclude this edition of the Dwarven Tavern Radio Show. I am your host, Jeff Goins, and
Ian Goins.
Lyric Goins.
And Josh, go forward.
want for you to wish for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.